Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. Well, today we're going to find out what Bigfoot is all about because we're going to discover all about his secret life. I didn't even know that Bigfoot had a secret life, but we're going to find out all about that. And to do that, we're going to be speaking with Jeffery Pritchett and Andy Colvin, hopefully Andy Colvin. We're having a little bit of problem getting a hold of him, but we're just going to keep our fingers crossed. Hey, maybe the aliens got him or something. It could happen. Anyway, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, intuitive counseling, and energy medicine sessions. So if you have something going on in your life, a health issue or issue in your relationship, problems at your job, give me a call, drop me an email, and we will get a time set up and get to the bottom of your concerns. It's also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And I announced this last week, and I'm going to announce it again this week. We have just released a 50-page ebook called Jumpstart Your Intuition, and it's a free download. If you go to appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, you too can jumpstart your intuition by getting this free, yes, I said free download. And again, if you've missed an episode of Just Energy Radio, please do stop by the Just Energy Radio webpage, www.justenergyradio.com, and check out our over 7 years worth of show archives. Or you can go to our YouTube page, that's Just Energy Radio on YouTube, and listen to the show there. If you go to the webpage, sign up for our newsletter. If you go to the YouTube page, please subscribe to our channel. And as always, you can come right here to the Inception Radio Network and access all of the show archives. Let's see. Anything else I need to talk about? Not with that part. I do have a couple of other quick announcements. Saturday, April 12th in spooky Jefferson, Texas is the History, Haunts, and Legends Conference. And I'm sure if you've been listening to this show, you've heard me talk about this event. One of my favorites in the most haunted city in Texas and one of the top 10 in the country. Always a fun event. Lots going on. I'll be there speaking, talking about genetic manipulation in antiquity. April 13th, I'm going to be doing a quick little flight to Pensacola, Florida, and we'll be talking about Myth is History. April 26th in Tyler, Texas is the Tyler Paranormal Conference. And what am I talking about there? I think I am talking about extraterrestrials and underground bases, something like that. I'm talking about something. I never know until I get there. And then it's a little bit out there, but I'm just going to throw it out. August 16th in Collinsville, Illinois, which apparently, I had to look it up on the map, is just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. Ancient Mysteries International is holding the Golden Age Conference, past and future. I'll be there speaking about something golden-like, I guess. Anyway, Well, we're going to find out all about Bigfoot. Does he bite his fingernail? I don't know. I'm not really sure what kind of secrets Bigfoot has. Maybe he has a girlfriend. It could happen. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about our guests, and I will introduce both of them in case Andy pops in a little bit later. But we're going to be speaking with Jeffery Pritchett. Jeffery has a bachelor's in communication science. He is also the host of the paranormal and esoteric The Church of Mavis radio show, as well as writing for The Examiner and Before It's News and New Dawn magazine. He was originally born in Florida and now originally born in Georgia and now lives in Florida. And his webpage is churchofmavisradio.com. His cohort in crime is Andy Colvin, and Andy is an eclectic artist, filmmaker, writer, musician, and media commentator who has been called his generation's Charles Fort, the Sherlock Holmes of synchronicity. Okay. And one of America's great pain-in-the-butt original thinkers. Well, I like that part. Colvin is considered by some to be the world's foremost authority on the mysterious Mothman phenomena due to his early experiences with the phenomena and his intensive audiovisual documentation of symbols and synchronicities. And they are the authors of the new book, Praise for the Hairy Man. So please welcome, at least at this point in time, to Just Energy Radio, Jeffery Pritchett. Hey, Jeffery, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Hello. Good to be here.
So I'm just, getting very curious what kind of secrets Bigfoot has. But I'm sure we will let it unwind and unfold and find out all his little dirty secrets. And then we can post them on Facebook.
Yeah, I think Bigfoot kidnapped Andy Colvin. I don't know where he is.
Well, in going through your book, I have to tell you, and I'll maybe sort of get a little serious later. There was a quote in the book that I just fell in love with. And since I'm kind of being in a, humorous mood here, but the quote was, "The Loch Ness Monster is actually a submarine driven by Bigfoot." I don't know. That just really tickled my fancy.
Yeah, there's some good quotes in there by lots of different people. I'm trying to find the Bobcat Goldthwait quote. I'm having difficulty right now, but I have a quote in there by Bobcat Goldthwait, the guy from Police Academy, the guy that talked funny and all that stuff. But he just made a movie. I haven't seen it yet. It's called Willow Creek, and it's about Bigfoot, and it's supposed to be really, really good. It just got a distribution deal with some DVD company. It's finally coming to DVD soon. But it's like a found footage kind of thing, and I usually hate those, but I saw another movie by Bobcat Goldthwait called God Bless America that was excellent. A little disturbing, but excellent nonetheless, so I'm really looking forward to his Bigfoot movie. Cool.
I mean, I remember him from the radio years and years and years ago, and he used to crack me up. But, since Andy's not here, I guess it's just me. It's just mano y mano. So how did you get interested? I'm sorry. I'm kind of on like a crack up mode today, so you're just going to have to put up with me. But
it's all right. It's in the air. I found the Bobcat quote. I'll say it real quick, and then I'll answer your question. Okay. I like the outdoors. It says, "I like the outdoors. If you go looking for Bigfoot and you don't find him, the byproduct is that you went camping." So hey.
This is true.
So what was your question again? Okay. How did I get into Bigfoot?
Yeah, how did you? I mean, for you, I don't really know Andy that well. I know you more, just from your radio show and your writing in the Examiner. So I've been exposed more to your stuff. So there's Bigfoot, but then there's the whole paranormal idea, UFO, Bigfoot, whatever. How did you get into that whole arena in the first place?
Well, honestly, the best way to get into it is I had a lot of weird stuff happen to me, and I saw a lot of strange things, and that's what got me into it. I guess the best way to go into it is to tell the tale, so to speak. And when I was around 17 in my teens, I got testicular cancer, and the cancer had spread to my stomach and lungs, and I was pretty much, I don't know, they said chemo could fix it, but it was a rare case because it spread. And I also, at 17, lost a testicle. So, of course, at that age, that was a lot to go through. And I would say when I was going through chemo, I found the universe, so to speak. I don't usually like to use the word God too much. I prefer universe or great spirit. Sometimes I'll use God, but I prefer universe or great spirit. But during that, chemotherapy, I latched on to comic books and Anne Rice books and, with the vampires and superheroes, and I kind of lost myself in that world. And I was laying in the bed, and I remember the news being on, and some father killed his daughter. Her name was Haley. He killed her and, buried her in the backyard or something crazy. And I just started crying a whole lot, and I prayed to be healed, and I prayed to be a superhero, which that sounds funny now. I always laugh when I say it, but I was 17 and dying. So, and I believe during that time, the universe or whatever's out there that is that created us, and I do believe there's some alien origins to that on some level, it heard me. And I was healed, and, a year or so or more passed. My dad passed away from a heart attack, and I also went through a divorce, and it was just, between all of that happening to me, I had sort of a breakdown. And during all that, I was seeking the spiritual a lot. I would read any book I could get my hands on, from Druidism to shamanism to the occult to, anything I could read, I would do it. And I was seeking answers because I didn't understand why all this bad stuff was happening to me. Testicular cancer, the death of my father, and the divorce, and, just a plethora of other, financial psychosis. And I started seeking, the meaning of life. And I believe on some level, by doing this, I had a shamanic death of sorts that was triggered from the cancer and all that. And I started to attract phenomenon to the house in Georgia where I lived, which consisted of UFOs, and multiple witnesses saw the UFOs, family, my brother, his son, my sister, my mother, friends, and I had friends tell me, Jeffrey, you're attracting these UFOs on some level. And I don't know what I did. I don't know why, but somehow I opened up doorways, and I started to attract this stuff to me, and it scared the living hell out of me at first. It was terrifying. It was like I was in a horror movie. And during that time, I saw some beings that were from elsewhere that definitely were not from around these parts. Seeing beings made out of light, like just pure light beings. And I think they might be us without our flesh, so to speak. I also saw some beings that were one night around the lake when I was with some friends, and it was on Halloween night, and I was in the woods, and I saw beings that were very reptilian-like, and I call them the serpentines. And they were not physical like me and you. They were definitely in another realm, and they were very kind of like hologram-like, like a hologram's the best way. You could see them, like, or multidimensional. They definitely were not from around these here parts. And it's interesting because recently, one of the beings, I always used to say it looked very Medusa-like, and it had something on its head like tentacles or something strange, and they're very hard to describe just because of the way they look, just very different. And a few days ago in Albert Rosellis's group, Rosales, he has a humanoid group, I found some other articles that he posted about other sightings in the south of the United States, in Georgia, and in North Carolina of people who claim to have seen the same exact being. And the words were in one of the reports that it was very hard to describe, and it had tentacles on its head. And I just basically, the reason why I'm into the Bigfoot and the paranormal and the radio show is because I had a lot of weird stuff happen to me. And if it wasn't for all that weird stuff, if I never had ever seen any of that stuff ever, I probably would be doing something totally different than what I'm doing now. So
are you still attracting stuff to you, or have you moved past that phase?
It's calmed down a lot. Occasionally, I've seen UFOs all my life, and I've seen a lot of those around here. I haven't seen any beings, humanoid beings, like I saw back in my early 20s, what I call my yonder years, my golden oldie years. And those are the goldie oldie encounters. I haven't seen any beings in a very long time, but I have seen them in dreams. I've seen Sasquatch in dreams, and I have seen alien-type beings in dreams. But there recently, I've been doing some transcription work for Andy. Hold on just a second. He's replying to Facebook.
Yeah, I just gave him the number. So we should be getting, he should be coming out of his missing time phase currently.
I'm glad. I'm glad he's coming because my OCD, my God, I'm by myself. Jesus, man. But nonetheless, I've had some weird things come up lately, some weird smells in the house and outside around the house that are this egg sulfur type smell, and it's the same smell that they say is prevalent when you have a Sasquatch encounter. And I went around asking my brother and his son, you're taking a shower a day because what is that smell? And, of course, they had, and it wasn't them, and we could not locate where the smell was coming from. We even went outside to the septic tank, nothing. And then I was going down to the store with my brother in his truck. I smelt it really quick in the vehicle. And it was that same weird eggs, really strong. And there's been some UFO sightings and strange little things, but nothing really big right now. And I wonder if that's because I'm older and, like I said, a little bit fatter, and they're just being careful. I don't have a heart attack.
You have a gun, those important things. I mean, I've watched that one, and I don't really recall which Bigfoot show it is, but it's, these Southern guys, and, they go looking for Bigfoot with, a shotgun. And I'm like, really? And they were in the woods one night, and they heard something, and they just, let loose, and were just shooting away. I'm like, okay. But, of course, they didn't kill anything.
Those guys, anybody like that, it sounds like a monster, and that's probably how Bigfoot perceives them, and that's probably case closed on that. They probably avoid them at all costs. They sound like psychos.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm not quite sure. I think Andy's having more missing time. I don't understand.
It's a trickster. He's rambunctious tonight, obviously. But those shows.
So in all of that, you had Bigfoot. Well, have you seen a Bigfoot?
when I was a kid, I had an experience where I think I was about, God, I don't even remember how old, 11 or 12. I was in the woods with a friend, and we saw something, and it freaked me out so much. I went back home and told my mom, and she called the police, and they came out, and they made me draw it, and it was a Bigfoot. So I don't know if that was just, I remember seeing something, but it's one of those what if, I don't know, I'm not sure what I saw, but it was kind of peculiar, and the kid that was with me said he saw something too. Well, the police went out there, and this was in Georgia, and they came back with some story about escaped spider monkeys or something weird from a carnival. So I'm not really, that's a questionable scenario whether I saw Bigfoot or not, but it's
well,
possible.
I mean, that's a pretty big difference, a spider monkey and a Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's true.
Size-wise, it's kind of like saying you saw a matchbook car or a Cadillac, Yeah.
And it was weird, though, that I drew Bigfoot. So I don't know. That's the only thing that's come close to Bigfoot and the dreams that I've had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't ever seen Bigfoot, but I haven't ever seen a UFO either. So, oh well.
Really?
No, just ghosts. I'm a ghost girl, but no UFOs.
So you said Andy gave you his cell, right? That's the number.
No, I gave him the number for the network. He asked me what the number was, and so I gave it to him, and he hasn't called. So I don't know.
Well, he told me I'm on sale and gave me a number, and I just put that number.
Up. All right,
I just put that. Yeah.
I don't know.
When it comes to these shows, all these people are looking for Bigfoot, and they're coming at it from, I'm not going to say all of them are, but a majority of them are. They're coming at it from an angle of capture King Kong, put it in a box, and parade it around like it's a carnival circus animal freak show. And it's barbaric on many levels. And I don't, those shows, I can't watch them. I've watched some of them just for the humor of it because they're so funny, stupid. But most of them are ridiculous, and most of those people get upset if you bring up any paranormal element of Bigfoot. And I do believe there's a paranormal element to Sasquatch, that there's a multi-dimensional, or they walk between realms and possibly travel between portals, and that they've been here since the dawn of time, and that they're ancient, and tie into the wee folk and the fairy and all that wildness. I think they're beings of the forest, nature spirits. And like the Indians, the Native Americans, American Indians, say that they're guardians of the mountain and the forest. And, like I said, all the hunters and stuff that are going after them, they're just doing it for greed and selfishness. They just want to bag and tag one and, make some bucks and prove one's out there. But they're going about it the wrong way.
This is kind of a weird question, but you just made me think of it. So anyone that has encountered a Bigfoot, have there been any, I'm going to put this in kind of quotes, reports of them having any kind of a mystical experience, or, when the encounter ends, that they feel, more enlivened, like if you're around a mystic, you always feel uplifted. And I just am curious, what kind of a feeling people that do have an encounter are left with.
Well, there are a lot of different encounters that are very shamanic, and they seem like some kind of initiation between the experiencer and the Bigfoot, like it's something spiritual on a lot of levels. And there's an interesting interview with Brent Raines in the book called The Shaman's Perspective. And the Shaman's Perspective, he talks about some of these beings will appear to you, and you have to overcome fear and go through an initiation to where you get to the second form of contact on some level. So I think on a lot of levels, it is very shamanic to have an encounter like that. And I think they avoid people with guns. They look for people that are filled with love and are very spiritual and kind, and they come to those people, and it starts off as a situation to where, you hear the howl in the woods that they make. You hear the tree knocking. They may leave a gift or something like that. There's instances where they leave,
I ask what kind of gift? My dog leaves me treasures all the time, but I'm assuming it's not that kind of gift.
Like a crystal or a feather or a stone,
cool.
something pretty. Sasquatch like pretty. But yeah, there's instances. Lisa Shield was on the show, my show, Church of Mavis Radio, for her book Forbidden Bigfoot, and she had pictures of horses who had their manes braided by Sasquatch, and she took pictures, and apparently the Sasquatches would come by and braid these little intricate braids into the horse's hair and leave it.
But I mean, short of the braids, even just leaving a gift says that these creatures have a level of consciousness, a level of understanding them as individuals. I mean, because if you think of the animal kingdom, I mean, if we just think that this is some kind of a primate, primates don't do, well, I mean, I can't say they don't. I'm not, an expert on primates, but I would think that they wouldn't do things like, find you a feather and leave it for you. I mean, I guess cats leave stuff at your front door, but it's really not the same.
Yeah, I try to understand why a lot of them, from what I've read, they avoid people because they feel people, are dangerous for them. So they don't want anything to do with humans at all. But then there are some who seem to have some sort of contact with people. And in the book we have interviews with all kinds of people who have different perspectives on Bigfoot. You have people that, seems a lot of women have contact with Bigfoot. We have a lot of stories of women who have had the gifts exchanged and things like that. And the book also embraces, on some sides, some of the people who, are the hunter types. There's Justin Smeja in here who claims he killed and shot Bigfoot. And we have an interview with him. We have interviews with the women who have had the shamanic type contact. We have,
we're going to come back to that. Wait, all right, stop right there. So if he shot and killed Bigfoot, then where is the carcass? Where's the evidence?
Well,
I don't mean to be so
apparently,
blunt, but where's the evidence?
Supposedly, and I say supposedly because I really don't know if he shot Bigfoot really or not. He is either telling the truth or he's lying. I don't really know because I wasn't there. But as far as supposedly he gave some DNA meat evidence to DNA people. Her name's slipping my brain right now. She's mentioned in the book. For some reason, there's an alien block on her name. The lady that did the big DNA test for Bigfoot. You might know her name, but right now it's escaping me. But this guy's been on documentaries, and he gave them DNA, and when it came back as a bear or wolf, he started crying because it didn't come back as a Sasquatch. So I've said, if this guy's lying, he should win an Emmy.
Well, it just seems that, like, if you shot a Bigfoot, that, that's kind of like capturing the Loch Ness Monster. Why would you just leave it in the wood? I mean, that's, or you caught an extraterrestrial, you bagged a little gray. Why would you just leave it laying around and just take a little meat? I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Supposedly, not only did he kill an adult Sasquatch, he shot a kid Sasquatch. There were two bodies. And then he supposedly took the meat from it and then came back and the bodies were gone. So it's a strange case because if he is making it up, why the hell would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's pretty crazy. Why would you put all that crazy on you, you know? That's the same thing with alien stuff. Why would you make that up? Of course, there are people that do it, but why? I don't see the benefit at all. It's certainly not money. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, and maybe I watch too many, like CSI shows on TV, which isn't entirely true, but even if you couldn't lug the entire body, it seems like you would take something that would be forensically viable, a hand, a foot, the head, something, not a piece of thigh. Sorry, I'm just being kind of nitpicky and, skeptical.
Well, it's an iffy, I don't blame you. It's fishy. The whole thing's fishy, but I don't really know, For all I know, he could be a government agent making up some weird Bigfoot story for some weird, who knows? I mean, I don't know. He could be a government spook for all I know. Mm-hmm. But he's going with the act that he killed Bigfoot, and he's definitely serious about it. Like I said, I've seen him crying about it on documentaries.
So there are a lot of people that try to claim that Bigfoot is the missing link or a missing link, or some off branch of the human line. I mean, based on, your research, what do you think? How do you think he fits into, life here on Earth?
Well, some say it's the original man. It's strange because I think there may be some I think there's many different layers to this. There's in the book we embrace so many different perspectives. There are people who believe Bigfoot are aliens, and they crashed here, and they had to live here. There are people that believe Bigfoot got dropped off by aliens. There's a guy I interviewed that thinks Bigfoot is an all-terrain vehicle for aliens, and there's a little gray inside of it, and it's jumping around and gathering samples from the earth. And then, of course, when it comes to Sasquatch, there's people that think it's the missing link, or a tribe of cavemen or something that didn't for some reason evolve over to where we're at now on some level. So there's also Kawani Laparitis. I always have trouble with his last name. He wrote the book Sasquatch People, and if you ever really want to, besides our book, his book Sasquatch People, I think he's definitely right on about a lot of things. And he claims that he's had contact with Sasquatch and aliens at a cabin where he lives at. And he claims there are a race of beings called the Ancient Ones who they're humans, but they have hair-covered bodies. And then there are the Sasquatch who are ape-like, and they're the more ape-like Sasquatch. And they're like these tribes that have been around, like I said, from the dawn of time. And the Native American perspective is that they're the wild people. They're like a wild tribe of people who are really in tune with nature. And then there's strange things, like you were talking about, with the missing link and stuff. There are ties to giants. I mean, they found, we've had Jim Mars on the Church of Mavis radio show, Richard Dewhurst, and they talk about the great Smithsonian cover-up, about all the missing giant skeletons that have been covered up, the ones that have been found in America. And on Micah Hank's show a couple of weeks ago, or I can't remember the exact date, we discussed a connection between Bigfoot and giants. Is Bigfoot a giant? Are giants Bigfoot? Are they the same thing? So there's that possible connection too. And as we know, with the Bible and stuff, there's all the story of the Nephilim and giants and all that stuff. So I mean, there's so many ways to look at Bigfoot. We have Stan Gordon in the book. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Stan Gordon from Pennsylvania and all the Sasquatch and UFO sightings there throughout the years. And that, to me, just the idea that there's two phenomenon happening at one time, first off, someone sees a Sasquatch, and then shortly thereafter they see a UFO. That's too big. That's got to be a shaker to the brain right there to see both of those at the same time. But Stan Gordon is an excellent researcher that's been around for a long time and has some great books out about Pennsylvania and the Sasquatch UFO connection, and we interview him in the book too.
Well, I mean, I think that the whole idea of Sasquatch and extraterrestrials is really interesting, and it does open the door and create possibilities as to why we haven't really found a Bigfoot anywhere.
Yeah, and the multidimensional level of them as well. I mean, if they're traveling between realms, they could, if they died in this realm, I would think the other ones would get the body and bring it over to that other realm. Or I've heard that they bury their dead. They may have a place so far out in the wilderness that no one goes there ever. And, you know, there are places like that where, you know, uncharted territory, so to speak, where they may bury their dead. But who's to say they're not carrying their dead over to this other realm that they exist in?
Mm-hmm. Or, you know, putting them into the ship or whatever. You know, I mean, there are the extraterrestrials that, you know, that live in the earth. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, there's the talk about the reptilians, but, you know, there's also talk that there are other extraterrestrial groups that live underground, and, you know, entrance to these realms is via caves, you know, and, you know, if the Bigfoot are hanging around the mountains, there's not anything saying that they're not, you know, accessing this cave, you know, tunnel network system, and that's how they're traveling around, and not necessarily via the waterways that some researchers claim.
Yeah, I've heard things about caves and cave networks that are pretty prevalent when it comes to Bigfoot, that they would use those a lot. Definitely some encounter stories where they've disappeared into like caves and couldn't find them later, things like that. There's a great movie, I don't know if you've heard of it, but have you seen Letters from the Big Man by Christopher Munch?
Mm-mm.
It's really good. I would highly recommend it.
I mean, I'm guessing Bigfoot.
Well, yeah. It's got that, I don't know if you've ever seen that show, American Horror Story. There's a girl in it, Lily Rabe, R-A-B-E. She's the blonde-headed lady, woman that's on that show, but she's in it. And it's basically a woman, and she has Sasquatch encounters, and it's very shamanic. It leaves gifts, and it's really good. It's probably one of the best, like, positive, besides Harry and the Hendersons, of course, Sasquatch movies that exist. If you ever get a chance, I'd definitely recommend it. It's really good.
Hey, so I have some exciting news.
Yes?
So the UFO finally dropped Andy off, and he's here to be with us. So I'm just going to give everybody a quick reminder of Andy, and we're going to bring him into the conversation. So we're going to do a little bit of backtracking. Andy Colvin is an eclectic artist, filmmaker, writer, musician, and media commentator who's been called his generation's Charles Fort and the Sherlock Holmes of synchro conspiracy, and one of the world's greatest pain-in-the-butt original thinkers. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, Andy Colvin. Hey, Andy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I apologize for being late. I had a publishing emergency of great import.
More important than me? Oh, man, now my feelings are hurt, and I'm going to have to cry and everything.
Well, it affects like at least a dozen books, and they're all classic reprints, and it's just, I don't know if you know this, but Amazon's shutting down their reprint service this Monday. So everybody's scrambling to get their reprints in. And I felt like, you know, if I didn't do that, what I had to do there, that the whole thing wouldn't happen. So
reprints as in, you know, books that are in the public domain that they are putting back out there?
Right. And also books where I'm contacting the author and getting permission. Some of these old Saucerian publication books, the Gray Barker, whatever you called his his operation. A lot of some titles in that collection that are going to be nice for the archive, for the Gray Barker archive. They can have nice copies of things to even sell to the public, hopefully. Nice old stocking stuffers for Christmas, contactee books and stuff like that.
I mean, I just find that kind of fascinating because I would think that most of the stuff that they had in that way were print-on-demand titles anyway.
No, there's a lot of obscure titles. I mean, Gray Barker was so prolific. He had dozens of titles, that some of which he used pseudonyms on. And I'm just getting the tip of the iceberg, I think. I think there's a lot more of them that we don't even know about, that have fallen by the wayside. I know there's 2 or 3 that I recently discovered that are out there, but no copies yet. So very obscure things, and they're usually, believe it or not, the best. They're the most controversial, insightful, forward-looking. It seems like the books that are the most popular, are the ones that are they hit a certain chord or at a moment in time. They have a cool cover, like They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, and people go for those. And they, but some of these other ones are even better. They're just more unknown.
Well, and sometimes books can be very controversial in their day or ahead of their time, and so people can't really get the message. Where now, we can look at some of this material in more of a hindsight and go, "Hey, this guy was right on."
Yeah, they were talking about Bigfoot, the relationship between Bigfoot and Mothman, even back then, and about alien abductions in the '60s. There were a lot of those. These things are all in there, but they have not made it. They've not been carried forward in the literature, so that the new people to ufology can see some of these other stories. The press today just seems to focus on certain very big stories that seem to have the most holes in them, or seem to be maybe not credible, or have just a lot of scammers involved, like Roswell and stories like that. So these are just, I think these are good stories. They're real, and I think Gray Barker has gotten a raw deal in a way. And not to talk about Gray all night, but he was a good reporter. He was very straightforward in how he reported stories. He did a lot of Bigfoot stories as well as UFO stories. Really everything. He was involved. He was interested in all sorts of things. So these are things that we all find fascinating, especially when we know how rare they are. And there's a whole story there. There's a whole lot about Gray Barker that we don't know about. And I think there's going to be more in the future that we will be able to look into.
Well, and I just find it interesting that Amazon is shutting down that piece of their operation, and making that service not be available anymore. I mean, that's just, I mean, I don't know if the material is still going to be available in a Kindle format or, whatever, but.
Yeah, you'd have to do it at your hire someone to scan everything separately and make it fit whatever Amazon's doing at the time. But it certainly is a lot easier this way, and they're making them fit exactly how they want them to be for their setup. But contactee stories we're seeing. In the book that Jeffrey and I did on the Bigfoot, we have a lot of Bigfoot contactee stories, and then you look, and I've been looking at these old UFO contactee stories, and there's similarities, and it's almost like we're having a revival, of a lot of the 50s memes, all these ancient aliens things, the things that really seem to have staying power are these older sort of memes from, Elizabethan times or 1800s that are still being put forward every so often. And there's a whole staple of them, and so I think it's good to have more of that out there, especially the old stuff that people can check out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one of my favorite places online is archive.org. I love that site, because you can find all of these old books that are in the public domain, and you can get them in a Kindle format or PDF format. I mean, they have multiple formats. And okay, so the OCR wasn't necessarily that good, and you have to do a little bit of creative reading around it. But I'll tell you what, the people that were writing in the late 1800s, really early 1900s, they'll just call a spade, and they'll just badmouth each other, and it's actually kind of funny at some point. But, the material that they put out, it's not necessarily politically correct, and they just report it, whatever it is that they're talking about.
They're also good writers back then. Mm-hmm. They were much more adept, probably, than we are with the English language. And I was just reading a book from 1901, I think, about how the great fortunes were built. The great fortunes of the Astors and who were some of the other ones, but the shipping magnates of early America. And it's amazing. It is. It's something you'd hear Oberman or Rachel Maddow talking about, and it's like you're saying, it's very to the point, and it doesn't mince words, and we need to keep that stuff alive.
Mm-hmm. Unless they're totally politically incorrect, and sometimes you have to just make exceptions. I was reading this one book, and we're totally going off topic here. But it was talking about Australia, and it was Australia, and it was referring to the indigenous population as pickaninnies. I was like, okay. I don't know that you can get away with that anymore, but that was what the title was. And, yeah.
Well, the nice thing about Barker is he was politically correct. He always was respectful of the people he was writing about, and he was a very talented writer. And we tried to bring a little bit of that to the Praise for the Hairy Man, a little bit of just being open to everybody's point of view, because everybody had a different point of view, or at least you could categorize them into a few points of view. And we just tried to keep it neutral and just present them all side by side. And I think it freaked out some people because they're not used to seeing that.
So let me ask you this, and I had asked Jeffrey this before because we're getting kind of close to the break time. How did you get into the whole paranormal, UFO, Bigfoot, whatever? I mean, I really don't know you real well other than your bio, thing. How did you get into this thing in the first place?
Yeah, with my early experiences, 6-7 years old, seeing Mothman a couple of times or something like it, and really I still can't classify it and tell you what it is. I think it may be a shape-shifting thing that can look like Bigfoot or look like something else. And I just sort of filed that away, and I just sort of figured I had a colorful childhood with all of these people around me that were seeing things. I only saw something a couple times. I'm not generally that kind of person. So I just sort of put it on the back burner. But over the year, but I did know that everything wasn't the way it was supposed to be. The reality wasn't the way that they were telling me. But I knew that. So I was a very skeptical, person, and probably would be considered left, on the far left, so far left that I may be far right. And I was always into activist things, and because you could see what was going on, and there have been a lot of things to worry about in my lifetime, politically and otherwise. And then so I studied a lot of conspiracy in the 80s, and toward the end of the 80s I got into UFOs. And I just sort of carried those through for another 10 years, all the way up to 2000. I studied everything there is about conspiracies and mind control and aliens and everything else, because I didn't have a child at that time. I had a lot of free time, and I'm an avid reader. So, but when 2001 came around and the 9/11 event happened, then I knew that the Mothman story was real, because that had been a prediction that I had been told as a kid. It supposedly came from Mothman. So then I went into a 10-year overdrive where I just went back and I interviewed everybody I could find who could substantiate further tales of Mothman, exactly like the stuff that John Keel wrote about and Gray Barker wrote about. And it actually started again, and it started happening as soon as the movie came out. And we all met John Keel. We all started having crazy paranormal things happen. More sightings around Point Pleasant. We had sightings of different strange energy forms or something, invisible type of entities, poltergeists, synchronicities out the wazoo. And so I sort of did that until about a year or two ago. Now I'm just sort of getting into some other stuff that I came across during my Mothman research, which is stuff that Gray Barker was doing, some of these John Keel articles that we republished lately, and just being more of an archivist, I think, and wanting to get as much out there as I can about Mothman now while it's all sort of fresh. So in my books, I'm pretty encyclopedic about covering everything that happened during the time period of that 10 years. And so somebody maybe later can figure out what the heck, what's going on.
And for people that really aren't familiar with the story of the Mothman, I'm going to make the assumption that the Mothman was not a Bigfoot. Hey, I'm just making conversation, okay?
He doesn't have to be. I think if he looks like a Bigfoot versus a Mothman, that's a meaningful difference.
There is a bat squatch. Bat squatch. Have you heard of the bat squatch?
I think Jeffrey's been quiet for just too long.
Have you heard there's a creature that looks like Bigfoot that has bat wings that's been sighted, and it's called a bat squatch.
But is it supposed to be big like a Bigfoot, or is it smaller?
Huge. I've read some stories. I believe Ken Gerhard gets into some of that. There's some other people, too. I can't remember. There's some stuff online, but it's called Bat Squatch, and someone saw a Bigfoot that had wings. So, hey, it happens, I guess.
Shape-shifting happens.
Shape-shifting happens.
Well, and this is, something that I think I'd like to cover because I'm looking at the clock. We have less than 10 minutes, and from a couple of different perspectives, but the idea of shape-shifting, people to animals or whatever, has been around for a long time, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely. Very shamanic. It's been around in Celtic tales of their gods and goddesses. It's very shamanic, Native American folklore stories of coyote and the hairy man is in Native American folklore. So there's all kinds of stories of shape-shifting. I have a lot of I forget who it's by. It might be by John Williams or John Matthews. Celtic otherworld stories, and it's all these Celtic stories of the gods. Most of their names I can't pronounce right now without digging up the book, but there's so many stories of shape-shifting going on in those stories, those Druid tales that are really great. So yeah, it's immersed into our culture on some level with these stories. And it's hard to imagine, though, of something shape-shifting like in our physical reality like that. But I think with this phenomenon, it's definitely plausible and definitely possible.
Andy, anything to add?
Well, just that I think shape-shifting is a I don't know, what do you call it, a function or that is necessary in a way, because our minds are being tapped into, or we're tapping into reality at a certain time and point in time when we see these things. And so what it looks like has meaning to you. So if you see Bigfoot versus Mothman versus Loch Ness versus alien, you just look at that symbol. It's making itself known to you for some reason, and I think it has to do with the individual. And so these are our archetypes. So, and this is a Buddhist practice. You if you see an archetype, that's the one that you study, because you don't have to study all of them to get the message. There's different paths to the top of the mountain. So whatever it is you see, you look into it and see why you're seeing it. If you're obsessed with it, why are you obsessed with it? You use it as a way to go forward on your own personal path. That's the best way to use it. Instead of just flipping out and thinking you're nuts, realize that you're not nuts and take action to understand it. Because it's a normal mental process, I think.
But isn't there, a big difference between actually seeing something in the flesh, even if it's interdimensional, I'll still say in the flesh, versus something that is just totally a construct of your subconscious mind or, kind of a collective conscious, this is what this thing means?
Well, when you see it, you don't know. I mean, I have seen it, and I can tell you that I don't know if it was, I know it was somewhat physical, but I also know that it was somewhat not physical. And that's the hard part. I can't really describe how you know that when you see it, but it does not fit normal reality, but yet it kind of does. And you're left with a question. I mean, there's no, it's just trying to interpret why you're seeing this, and you can't really put too many labels on it. You can't identify if it's an hallucination or not. So,
well, now let me ask a kind of weird question. I mean, have you ever had any ghost experiences?
Yeah. Yep.
So if you were comparing, apples to oranges or apples, and there's the experience of seeing like a Bigfoot in its quasi whatever form and a ghost, what you're saying is those are two very different levels of experience.
Well, sort of. They seem to be, but I've actually had the two happen at the same. I've had poltergeist experiences which seem to involve a ghost that I couldn't really see. And what I thought were Bigfoot was Bigfoot activity around my house, which was stimulated by other people saying, "Oh, well, there's been these sightings nearby of these sticks, these Bigfoot sticks. Somebody's making these constructions in the park, this huge ancient old growth park we have, where Mothman's been seen 3 times now, I think." So they may be related. The poltergeist and they are related. I mean, in the TNT area during the Mothman era, you had poltergeists galore, UFOs, Bigfoot, Mothman, and Men in Black. So they can all sort of coexist in the same area, and I think they are related. They're similar. The feeling is similar. The feeling that you get from them is similar. It's the same kind of terror, like being reminded again that reality is plastic and it's not always going to stay the way you think it is, and it's unpredictable. Reality is unpredictable. There are glitches in the program.
The flux in the matrix. I was thinking when you see something otherworldly, my best thing that I usually say is not meant for mortals' eyes, and then you go crazy. And then that's pretty much what happened to me, and then I made sense of it, and over the years I see it in a more positive light, and I've overcome the fear of that was there when I went through it initially in my early 20s. I mean, there were times when there were UFOs over treetop level, and also there was a UFO, a black pyramid, that was over the power lines, and a golden ball of light came out of it and came towards me and my friend Greg. And there was a time also at that house in Georgia, after I went through the cancer and my father's death and all that stuff, that my mother was with me, and we saw 3 black pyramid craft come out of a hole in the sky, a hole that appeared to be orangish green, very strange, and these crafts came out of it, and my mother was terrified. She was like, "Oh my God, Jeffrey, what is that?" And she about ripped my arm off, and she doesn't like to talk about it to this day. And like I said, with my experiences, they've calmed down a lot, except for some small things like the smells and dreams of Bigfoot. And my brother claims he's seen Bigfoot cross the road, but he doesn't drink or anything. So
we need to take a break. We need to take a break because it's that time. It's Bigfoot time. It's crossing time. So I'm Dr. It's crossing time. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're here talking to Jeffery Pritchett and Andy Colvin about their new book, Praise for the Hairy Man, The Secret Life of Bigfoot. And when we come back, I'm hoping they'll talk about some of the people they've interviewed firsthand encounters with Bigfoot, because I get the impression that, they were kind of hanging. Anyway, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN Chat Lounge, the Game Lounge, Video Lounge, or the Mood Lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Who were the gods of antiquity? They've been described as the forces of nature, levels of consciousness, and aspects of our psyche. Stories that depict their incredible weapons, their flying machines, and their amazing adventures are characterized as being the product of our ancestors' fanciful imaginations. But what if the tales of the gods are true? Did the writers, chroniclers, and scribes of our distant past actually document a realistic view of our origin? My latest book, Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, looks at our most ancient legends. Learn of the torrid romances, elaborate plots, violent scandals, and conspiracies that played out in antiquity. Find out the role the gods played in the life and culture we have today. If you want to find out the truth of who we are and where we come from, order your copy of Man-Made today. For more information, go to www.manmadethechronicles.com. That's www.manmadethechronicles.com.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free.
Move past the crossroads in your life and discover alternative solutions to your deepest concerns at soulhealer.com. So whether it's a physical problem, an emotional issue, a question about work, or troubles in your relationships, naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise can help you. Bring peace, harmony, and health back into your life. Schedule a session today. Visit soulhealer.com right away and live the life you've been dreaming of.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Go deep inside yourself and venture into the realm of the unconscious mind with my Meditating on the Kabbalah guided imagery audio CDs. Discover who you are and what you want in life. Meditating on the Kabbalah can help you to open, clear, and revitalize the energetic pathways of your subtle being. They will support you in your spiritual quest by helping you to access the profound insights and inner guidance you need as you work in alignment with your highest good. Let them help you to release negative thoughts and emotions and clear away any limitations that may be keeping you from experiencing your full potential. Walk down the path to health, healing, understanding, and enlightenment with Meditating on the Kabbalah. Order your copy today at www.soulhealer.com. That's right, that's www.soulhealer.com.
Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the live request tab under the show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. We've been here talking to Jeffery Pritchett and Andy Colvin about their new book, Praise for the Hairy Ape. But Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com, and they're laughing in the background. Okay, soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, energy medicine, and clairvoyant readings. So if there's stuff going on in your life, drop me a note, send me an email, give me a call, and we'll set up a time to work out those issues. Also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics, where you can jumpstart your intuition today by downloading our free ebook. That's AppliedEnergeticsInstitute.com. Okay, so before we went to break, I kind of said, well, we're going to find out all about the secret life of Bigfoot. And I want some juice. I want some details. So, and I'm going to ask you, Jeffrey, since Andy was the last one you were kind of the last one, but Andy really. Anyway, so Jeffrey, people who have had one-on-one encounters with Bigfoot, so the people that have seen them kind of walk across a field, that's not what I'm talking about. From what I've heard, that there are people that, kind of hung out with Bigfoot, or Bigfoot came to their house for dinner. What about those people that make those kind of claims? What do they have to say?
The only one that comes close to that is Kawani, I think, as far as hanging out with Bigfoot. He's been on my show before, and he claimed he got a massage from Sasquatch. So, which I'm not saying, I don't know if maybe he did. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. But there seem to be a lot of, Sally Shepard Wolfert, Valley of the Skookum is our book. And like I said earlier, it seems like a lot of the encounters, they're not Bigfoot coming and hanging out with you and having lunch with you. They're like this weird shamanic situation where they leave you gifts. They might. I have heard stories of Bigfoot knocking on a woman's house and her feeding them. I've heard a lot of different stories like that, to where on some level a woman, it seems to always be a woman in a lot of cases with these encounters, Maybe it's because of the divine feminine and their, more positive energy and love and all that. Love, light, and peace. So they probably feel that and they're more comfortable with women.
Maybe they don't have guns. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true, too. I don't have any guns. I don't like guns. I've thought about getting one in case there's a zombie apocalypse and I need one, but other than that, I don't really like them. But, yeah, I think that's a big part of it is the women are not probably as violent, or they're not, Sasquatch is not threatened by them as much as they would be a man. And, well, with those stories, it doesn't seem like Sasquatch comes and hangs out with them and, wines and dines and all that stuff. It just seems like a shamanic thing of gifts exchanges and sounds and vocalizations and things of that nature. But there is some rare stories now. I learned about this book in Sasquatch People from Kewaunee, and I just got it. It's by White Song Eagle. Now, I know he talks about her a bit in his book, but I haven't read it yet because I just got it. But it's called, it's a weird name. I'll try to say it and then I'll spell it. Teluke. Teluke is the name of the book. That's the name of the Bigfoot this Native American lady claims she hung out with. It's called a Bigfoot account, a personal account of interaction with an older race of spiritual beings. And I was surprised that Deb Cobble, from Bud Hopkins and all that stuff, she wrote an intro to it. But in this, she claims she hung out with Bigfoot a lot. And it seems more like a exchange of communication or something like that, like shamanic, like I said. Of course, there are other stories of people who run into, usually hunters, of course, who run into Bigfoot in the woods, and it's very terrifying. And some believe that Bigfoot can, set off terror in somebody or fear, can, bring that emotion into another person, and maybe they do that when someone's invading their territory or something like that. So that's mostly, like I said, the gun-toting types who are out there who get scared, crapless when they see a Bigfoot.
And I'll just kind of throw this out to either of you. There's when we encounter something that we don't know, and it works in both directions. If I encounter something that I'm afraid, that I am afraid of, I am going to put out my big bad mojo energy. And, I would think that if the other person is afraid, it would put out its big bad mojo energy. Do you think that when we encounter Bigfoot, are experiencing our own fear, or are we picking up the bad mojo that the creature is actually giving off? I mean, because those are two very different things. Okay, crickets. Did the big feet get you?
Well, who's answering this? Whose turn?
Well, I can introduce myself in terms of Bigfoot for a second, then we can come back to that question. How's that?
Okay.
I am a Bigfoot contactee, I believe, because when I was young, I had dreams that a Bigfoot was outside the window speaking to me telepathically. I had many of these dreams, and they went on for years and years. I later discovered that my sister had similar dreams, so I started thinking, well, maybe this was a real thing. But this was before Bigfoot was known as Bigfoot, or to me, I'm not sure when I started hearing the word Bigfoot. It was in the 70s sometime. But, then as time went by, I started realizing I had been having these, I wouldn't say necessarily that I was actually dreaming either. It was when you're, lying down or in bed and resting and half asleep, that state. And then these Bigfoot communications would occur. And it was very positive. However, the dreams that I had later at night, or, when you're really in your dream state, those would be more scary. There was something about it that was scary. Like there was this one that came to my window, and he and I had a thing going, where we could talk, but the rest of them were were scary to me, and they seemed to glow. You know, I have visions of these Bigfoot, but I never went outside and actually saw them while I was awake. But I know what they looked like and everything. And I never really talked about this for a long time because it's too insubstantial in a way. But later, I have had 2 or 3 more run-ins with something that I think was Bigfoot. So, you know, maybe he's one of my totem animals, he and the Mothman, I guess. And I just sort of go with the flow. But I can also say that I was close friends for a while with a very famous Bigfoot contactee, and his different contactees that he knows. And so if you wanted some juicy stories, like, you know, what does Bigfoot think about this or that, I could give you, you know, an answer from the juicy. If I don't name who it is, I can be more juicy with the answer.
Well, be juicy. Come on. We want to know their secrets. So you missed the beginning of the show. Well, we want to know the dirt, you know, and videotape, and we can put it on Facebook, actually YouTube, and make millions of dollars.
well, it's kind of a frightening area because around the time, probably a little after I started having those experiences, there were some cases nearby, a little north in Pennsylvania, where people were getting almost taken over by Bigfoot. There's a couple of cases where people were possessed by something that came into them when they were at a Bigfoot sighting spot, particularly where there was a UFO involved, right? And so this is what happens with the folks that are around this contactee that I know here in my area. They seem to go into trance and can be healed by the Bigfoot. They have relationships with the Bigfoot. Some seem sexual. I've heard the stories directly from them. Both men and women. In one case, the woman said that her affections were being there was competition for her affection between some aliens in a flying saucer and a Bigfoot, and that the Bigfoot was the good guy in all this. The alien more or less raped her, and also tried to kill her, I think. And the Bigfoot stepped in. So, and she claimed that she was healed from certain death. She had a heart problem, was diagnosed with every X-rays and everything, and after this Bigfoot saved her from being raped by the alien, she was healed and was completely normal again. And another lady told me not that kind of a story, but had just had an experience the day before seeing Bigfoot, and it was palpable. There's no way she was lying. I mean, I just can't. It was, you know, to me it seemed real. I can't think that anyone would be able to act through that. These kinds of things that they were talking about and the way that they were, holding themselves, it seemed very real. So there's something going on. And I will also say that when I was in contact with these people, that is when I had more Bigfoot poltergeists, the things I was talking about earlier during my Mothman research, that when I was hanging around with them, I had much more of that kind of thing going on.
So actually, let me ask one more question. We have a couple of questions in the chat room that are good that I want to get to. You know, you're talking about this, you know, potentially having relations with Bigfoot. I can make a lot of comments, but I'm going to be so good. But what about any kind of genetic mixing? You know, have there been any cases of that or stories of half-breed human with big feet, people, apey things hanging around?
Genetics? You mean between mixing of Bigfoot with humans on some level?
Yeah, that was kind of, yeah.
There was a story in, I mentioned his book earlier. I don't think it's not in ours. It's in Sasquatch People, about slaves running away and Bigfoot letting them come into their tribe and mixing to strengthen the tribe. That's some Kalani stuff. So like I said, I don't know how accurate that is. As far as now, I've heard some bizarre Bigfoot sex stories. This one is probably even dangerous to say on your show, but I'll tell it anyway. There was a story someone told me about a farmer, and he claimed that Bigfoot eloped with his horse, and in doing so, it broke its back and killed it, that there was a rogue Bigfoot coming out there and violating animals. So, and the guy who told it to me, of course, it's pretty funny, but it's pretty sick, too, at the same time. I realized this. He was dead serious that something was coming out there and hurting his animals and leaving them for dead. And there are stories of rogue Bigfoots who break away from the tribe and do something evil and kidnap people. There's possibly women. There's some story I read about one of them was rogue and the other Sasquatch made it go into a cave and drink antifreeze and die. I can't remember where I read that at, but I'm not saying that's a true story, but I have read that somewhere. But apparently, if you're familiar with David Paulides, it's very interesting that he is into Bigfoot heavily, and then he has the Missing 411 books about all these missing people. And he doesn't like to talk about Missing 411 and Bigfoot. He doesn't like to mix the subject, which is kind of weird because in Missing 411, some of the people that were missing have stories of these hairy hands giving them berries and stuff to eat, and that's all they remember. Of course, most of those people in those books die, and they find their bodies in weird locations in national parks. I don't know if you're familiar with Missing 411 now. Are you, Rita?
No, not at all. I'll have to check it out.
You should check out those books. They're terrifying, but they're really good. Like basically, David Paulides, we interview him in the book. There's an interview called "The Missing Tribe," and he gets into the Native American perspective of Bigfoot, being the wild people and being in tune with nature. And he has some great books that has a police. He's a cop. And there's a forensics drawer that draws a lot of Bigfoot sketches from different encounters. But in the book, he gets into the, like I said, the Native American perspective and all that. And I lost my train of thought. Give me it back.
Well, you brought up the Native Americans, and are there other stories that come out of indigenous cultures, whether it's Native American, whether it's, from the indigenous culture in the Himalayas, wherever we have, Bigfoot, Yeti, or whatever, of their relationship? It seems like they were aware of these creatures' presence, but do they have any stories that go any deeper than what we're finding out today with modern encounters?
Well, Kathy Strain, we interview her, and she has an excellent book, Cannibals, Gods, and Monsters. And basically, in the interview, on the Church of Mavis radio show, we did a lot of these interviews with the Bigfoot people and then transcripted them to the book. She has, in her book, it's stories from all over the earth from different native tribes and their folklore and stories passed down of them interacting with these Sasquatch. There's stories of Sasquatch healing people, like shaman-type Sasquatches. There's stories of women marrying a Sasquatch. There's stories of Sasquatches being mixed with the tribes, and there's a relationship going on between these different native cultures with these beings, and they treat them like a people and like a tribe, and she gets into it heavily, and there's some great stories in her book. Her book's one of my favorite books because all it is these beautiful pictures of all these native tribes and then the stories about the folklore. And there's really cool, positive stories in there, and then there's really creepy ones about, like these giants grabbing you and throwing you in a basket that impales you, and then they eat you. So there's all these different stories from all over the earth of native-type tribes, from, like Eskimos to, American Indians, all over the place, of them, recounting stories of interacting with Sasquatch.
So this was another question that was in the chat room, and it's from Neutron, and he asked, please ask if they feel Bigfoot is a shapeshift deception of the alien or hybrid creation by aliens. So do you think, I'll just rephrase this, do you think that Bigfoot is actually an alien that has shapeshifted into the Bigfoot form?
I'll let Andy get that one.
Well, I would say that's possible, and it's also possible that the aliens are a deception of the Bigfoot, the opposite. But I can relay a little bit from my own family history that goes into the Native American aspects, because I'm part Blackfoot, supposedly, and Montauk Indian. Now, in West Virginia, there's this term of you being Blackfoot. It's not Cherokee, it's Blackfoot, and I've looked into it, and it's another word for the Melungeons, sort of. The Melungeons are light-skinned Indians with blue eyes, so there's a lot of that in my family and in West Virginia. Some people call it the Saponi tribe, the Shawnee. There's different names for these different pockets of tribes, but they're all related. And I just noticed that Bigfoot is very similar to Blackfoot in terms of, just as a word. The Indian name that's the most similar to Bigfoot is Blackfoot, which is what we have in West Virginia. And what I got from handed down, there's lots of things I got from the old folks growing up. They grew up before cars, electricity, telephones, and they called this shape-shifting spirit Old Scratch. So you don't have to call it Mothman or Bigfoot. You can call it Old Scratch. And then what Old Scratch is a very tricky fellow. So you have to use your intuition if you're dealing with Old Scratch, because he can appear as different things. And so you have to really you're almost using your nervous system to interpret what the heck he's doing, because you don't know. One day, he's in a great mood. He has personality, right? So one day he's in a great mood and things go great, and the next time, he's on the warpath and you could get hurt. So the role of intuition was stressed, and taking each situation as it came individually, and then remembering all the previous ones so that you could try to predict the pattern or behavior of Old Scratch if he was making himself a nuisance in your life, which he obviously was. So that's what I would say is that it is both a shape-shifting thing, and yet it's not, because you'll probably see a definite form that gives you an indication of what mood Old Scratch was in and what was he trying to tell you.
You're talking about the voodoo now, Mont. The voodoo, Old Scratch, the voodoo.
Yeah. Maybe it may be related, in fact, to the
Daniel Blanc.
Say the Mayan, the Caribbean, the Mayan culture is primarily what most serious scientists say was who was living in Ohio and West Virginia. There are Mayan, a lot of Mayan symbology. There's things that show that there was communication between those Indians and the ones down south who did do voodoo and things like that.
Nice. So
these could be emanations of prior voodoo or they could just be ghosts of dead Bigfoot or dead Mothmen or things from the past. We're never really going to know, I don't think.
But yeah, I said once they're ghosts. Bigfoot could be ghost of caveman.
When you think about it, we're in between aliens and Bigfoot. We're kind of in the middle of that. So maybe we are a product of the mating of aliens who look all skin, with no hair and all that, versus mating with the hairy beings.
Well, and it sounds like they have a level of intelligence, and it would actually make more sense that way than mating with a primate.
Yes. There could be a huge conspiracy here to conceal our true origins from the Yeti. That's why I'm in the Church of Subgenius, as you may know. Being from Texas, being from Dallas, you may know quite a bit about the Subgenius.
No,
there's a whole thing. There's a whole. Well, it's a what do you call this? It's a church. But it's a funny spoof kind of religion, and the Yeti figures prominently. The basic theory of subgenii, is that we are descended from the Yeti, and that there will be a day of reckoning when the spaceships come back from Planet X, and these are called the pleasure saucers. The pleasure saucers are going to bring love and amorous entertainment to the people who are subgenii and who have accepted the religion, whereas the rest will be horribly killed and other things will happen to them.
So you guys are going to be
Hey, baptize me right now because I'm going.
Yeah. We actually have a song or two about the pleasure saucers. I have a band called Interdimensional Vortex League, which we don't get the naked chicks on stage like Ken Gerhardt's band, but we do write funny songs about the pleasure saucers and things that evoke the raw sexuality of the cryptozoological musical movement.
Nice.
Okay, well, I'm just not even sure where to go with that, so I'm just going to move along and just...
I'm thinking about hot Nordic blonde chicks now.
All right, we are totally just moving along. So one of the things that seems consistent, but gets poo-pooed by mainstream science are these, throughout time, we have stories of strange and unusual creatures, lizard man, mothman, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, chupacabras. I mean, chupacabras is kind of more recent, but of all of these weird creatures that inhabit the earth, why is it so hard for people to believe that, there might be something more here?
Jeffrey?
Some people are just stupid. No. I think some people are just caught up in the
show does not guarantee the comments made by their guests and does not endorse anything that they say or deny it either, but we take no responsibility for the comments they make. Thank you.
I think some people are really caught up in material reality and they're just so caught up in it. It imprisonates them in the flesh, and it's like they get caught up in this pinhead, hellraiser, earthly reality of money and the grind and just, reality really that's, the whole rat race, and they just don't care. And they just don't, there's, part of them's dead on some level. So, that's why I think everyone can be awakened on some level and have these experiences. I think, that's what happened to me with the whole cancer, shamanic death. If it wasn't for me seeing some of this stuff, I wouldn't be more aware or more spiritual than I am now. I wouldn't seek the spiritual at all. I'd be dead inside, and I would be in the rat race instead. And that's usually my astrological sign is Capricorn, and that's business and physical, material reality, and on many levels I went in the opposite direction of what Capricorn's supposed to do. I went in the weird spiritual direction instead of the stockbroker, blah, blah, blah direction.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, Jeffrey, we were talking about interdimensional beings, and one of the things that, I've seen, not personally experienced, but I've seen is that, people might encounter a ghost or people might, have some kind of experience. And unless they are open to accepting the experience, if they see a ghost, they might go, oh, well, that was just my imagination. And so do you think that, the number of people that are having UFO encounters or that are having Bigfoot encounters, that there might actually be more, but they're not open to validating what they are actually experiencing with their eyes, with their senses? I'll throw that one at Andy, since Jeffrey was just
talking. Could you restate that? I'll have to be honest. I was trying to work up a prank. I had a prank I was going to do, and then now I'm wondering if I should do it or not.
Busted.
I was going to use my APOL voice. This is the APOL voice. Anyway, I was going to say
a Bigfoot show, not an alien show.
Just let me say this. It's here. The unworthy will not enter the pleasure saucers. The unworthy will not enter the pleasure saucers. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You had to translate that like some bad EVP?
Yeah. Because everybody always says, we can't hear what you're saying. So anyway, you asked a serious question. I want to give a serious answer. But
okay, so the question was, when, there are, I would say, a large percentage of the population, and I hate coming back to ghosts, but I'm sorry, that's, I think, the one that people can wrap their mind around probably the best or the easiest, that might encounter a ghost. And in my mind, they're seeing a ghost, but to them, they just think it's some weird coincidence, and so is it possible that if these creatures are interdimensional, that people, they're just not coming up on their radar? That they're having these experiences, but it just becomes very easy for them to ignore.
Yeah. If they live a certain kind of lifestyle, they may not have too many opportunities. Because I do think there's something about the woods that helps this process along. If you're in the city, it's a little harder for some reason, although not impossible. I just think the nature of it changes in the city more. Things still happen that are glitches in the reality matrix, but they show up in different ways. Rather than seeing a creature, it's some other. It's a deja vu or synchronicity or who knows what. People go into trances and they'll wake up and they're 800 miles away and they don't know what happened. I mean that stuff. We spend. We spend a third of our lives lying down with our eyes closed and seeing all these visions. And I mean, reality really just, the more you know, the scarier it is and the harder to explain it is. And I don't know why. Some people are just tuning it out, I think. Or mislabeling it, but it's pretty widespread. That's when I'm at a party. That's usually what I ask people is, what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened? And everybody's got something, and everybody's usually has a belief system around it that will include ghosts, spirits, angels, fairies. Everybody's got a conspiracy too, or multiple conspiracies. And it's prevalent. It's very rare to find somebody that doesn't have a paranormal experience or a weird conspiracy. I mean, I maybe have a public persona as being a strangeness consultant, but I've heard stuff from just people that seem normal on the surface, and then you hear what their belief system is, and they just become so strange once you know the crazy things that they believe. That normal people are, every human being is a maze of contradictions and odd beliefs.
But then when you really get down to it, I mean, there are things that people believe that would be considered mainstream. And when I listen to what they believe, I just go, huh? Because it doesn't even make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, there's so many crazy beliefs out there that I actually feel like I'm pretty normal now. Once you know what all these things are. So it's a comfortable place to be, if you think you've got a handle on it. It's you can sort of get on with your life and get some stuff done.
Well, but if you are open to the weird and the unexplained, and even if you don't have an answer, it can make you be more accepting of other people who maybe don't have the answer or who have had experiences or, whatever, versus staying in your little box and saying, well, that wasn't, that's not what I believe. It just makes you more open, except for maybe, people that have channel material, which I don't do particularly. But anything other than that, it's all good.
The more aware you are, the better. And so some people are aware enough to move through this stuff and learn from it and actually use it. And I do feel like I can capitalize at times on it because it is a cycle, and there are high points where synchronicities are firing off, things are happening, and those are opportunities. And they work. I mean, I think what Jeffrey and I both have experience in is a mode of living that is beneficial and could help people just by paying attention to the cycles, knowing when the retrograde's on, knowing yourself, and adding some benefit, some added value to the world, through our lifetime. There's some good things here. The Native Americans look at it that way.
We've talked about the Native Americans, so Jeffrey, have there ever been encounters in places that you don't often think about Sasquatch, like in Mesoamerica or South America or Africa or Australia? I mean, you hear about like China, the Himalayas, Pacific Northwest, in the Texas, Louisiana area. But what about some of these other places in the world? Do they also have Bigfoot type sightings as well?
Yeah, there's Bigfoot sightings everywhere. I don't know of any place that's Bigfoot dry that I know of. Australia has the Yowie, and was Russia the Yeti. There's so many different names for this being. But yeah, every place, as far as I know. I mean, there's even, I talked to a lady at a few months back at the booze store, the liquor store, and she told me a story of a hunter who saw one in this area, and he was out hunting, and he saw it. And then she said the way that he told the story, he was really energetic and excited, and you could see that it scared him. And I recently, Scott Marlowe, who I'm interviewing in April on the Church of Mavis radio show, they meet here in the Panhandle and go out and look for Bigfoot and claim that Bigfoot's here too. So Bigfoot's apparently in the Panhandle too. I was surprised at that. So yeah, these beings seem to be everywhere. It's weird because if you really think about it, what if there is another multidimensional reality, and it's filled with, Sasquatch as much as we have humans here on this reality. So there's so many weird levels to look at all of this, and I think seeking the paranormal, to me, I like the Buddhist monks say and all that stuff, that life is a preparation for death. I think with me being faced with death, with my father's death, and with cancer, and when I was healed, I think seeking the paranormal is seeking information about the afterlife. what is it like when you're out of this body and there's all these other realms, and it's a way to figure out what's going on, what exists after this realm. And apparently there's a giant 1-ton interstellar Ewoks running around and a giant moth bat. So, my God, man. So, I think it's seeking this stuff is trying to figure out what exists beyond this realm. And that's why I do it, I think, is because I've seen it, and plus, in a way, it is a preparation for the realms that we go to after we leave this body.
So, you're talking about finding Bigfoot, which I think has been very frustrating for a lot of people that no one has found Bigfoot. But one of the things that you talk about in your book, and here I'll plug it, Praise for the Hairy Man, is a thing called Falcon Project. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because I guess one of their goals is to go look for Bigfoot, except in a different way.
Yeah, that's Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Barnes, I believe Jack Barnes. And basically what Project Falcon is a drone that is designed to hunt Bigfoot. It's a project to where this entire drone is dedicated to searching out forest areas and locating Bigfoot with the most, the most modern technology possible.
So do you think that one of the reasons that we're not finding, this is, I'll say Andy, that we're not finding Bigfoot is because they just stay away from the human presence? And do you think by having something where there's actually, not a physical presence there, they might have better luck?
I don't, you mean it's easier to see something that isn't there?
No, I believe that we all put out vibes. You know what I mean? And if we're in the woods looking for something, the creature is going to just, I would think, just shy away or not come around. I mean, that would just make sense.
Yeah.
But do you think, by having this drone in the air, do you think it might have the possibility of being more successful? I mean, short that it's an interdimensional being or in a cave or took off in a UFO, of course, in catching one on film, because there isn't, a body in the woods next to it. There's definitely this separation by distance.
Yeah. It's possible that they could get an image. Because apparently these things can show up enough to be photographed. So, yeah, I'd say that's possible. It's also possible that the creature will know and hide more. So
he checks in on before it's news, online, and keeps up to date with what's going on.
Yeah. Well, he knows where trail cams are because we've tried that. And we got lots of mountain lions, but we didn't get a Bigfoot, so Bigfoots are better than the mountain lions. Or it could be that not all of them can be photographed, because I'm not saying they all can be, but maybe occasionally one could become physical enough. I think some of them may not show up on film, but they'll be viewed by one or more people. It's possible. But I think people are finding Bigfoot. I found Bigfoot. I mean, it's just that when you find him, there's not a whole lot there. It becomes a mirror. You're just sort of looking at your own reflection. What were you thinking? Why did you see that? If you're trying to go outside yourself to get the answer, you're probably not going to get it. So
it seems like it's similar to the alien stuff. It's this riddle. It's like, here, see me really quick, I'm gone, and then you wonder, what the hell did I see? It's like the Riddler from Batman, this phenomenon with Bigfoot and aliens. It seems like here, look at me really quick, and now I'm gone. Nobody else can see me because it's really fast, and it's like there's a Riddler trickster element to it, and That's why anyone that says they've sat down with aliens or Sasquatch, I'm a little hesitant to believe that they're, eating lunch with them, because it seems like all this phenomenon's like I said, this puzzle that you have to figure out.
I think they probably do approach you if you're more of a certain type of person. I think when I was young, I was probably that kind of person. I didn't have a thought. I mean, I was out in the woods a lot, but I wasn't like looking for them, so they just sort of came to me, I guess.
Yeah.
But it seemed like some kind of educational process of some kind, creative process or something.
So in all of the stories that you guys have researched, does it seem as if Bigfoot is dangerous at all? I mean, have there been any stories of, somebody being hurt by a Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot throwing a rock at them, or anything?
Yeah, people have had things thrown at them. Some people have claimed to have been abducted by Bigfoot and come back from it. There's a story of a whole tribe of people, a tribe of Indians, a small tribe, disappearing after being taken by Sasquatch. That's up here on Vancouver Island. Yeah. I mean, Old Scratch can be in the mood, right? And you could be drawn out. I had this happen once. Old Scratch, that's the best thing I can describe it as, was trying to call me out into the woods. It was like it was Christmas Eve or something. Everybody was half drunk and having a great time, and it was just this. It was like looking for somebody in there, because these spirits, apparently, this is why we call alcohol spirits. It's because spirits can come into you when you're so drunk that you no longer are in control. And so alcoholics are said to be, possessed by this, the spirits. And so, yeah, I think it looks around at times, but if I had walked out there and disappeared, could you say that it was a Bigfoot that took me? You really can't say that. You can say that something maybe draws people out and they walk into another dimension and they're gone. But you couldn't really blame it on a Mothman or Bigfoot or anything. I think it's just one aspect of this force that you can...
But I mean, if they're opening up a dimensional wormhole or whatever, and you happen to walk through it, maybe. So, but you mentioned about the tribe that disappeared. So when they came back, what did they have to say? I mean, is there any record of that?
Well, they never came back.
Oh.
There's a story from Sweden about a group of kids, and it's very similar to the Pied Piper thing. Yeah, but they came back. They were led away by some trickster being, and some of them made it back, but most of them died. And the ones that made it back were prosecuted as witches.
Wow.
So you got to be, it may not be so bad that we don't take it that seriously, because when your government does take it seriously, look at what they do. They call you a witch, and boom, you're gone. So we're living in an extraordinary time, I think, when we can talk about this stuff and it's no big deal. But it used to be a big deal.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that would be kind of sucky. You end up going to Bigfootville, and hanging out with Bigfoot, and then you come back and they kill you because, whatever reason. It makes you wonder if they came back and they had some kind of enhanced psychic powers that really got them in trouble.
Exactly. That is the key there. Psychics are considered dangerous. And anybody that interacts with these creatures is considered a psychic by certain people who would like to do them harm if they can't control them.
I wanted to say that about the book, we've had Nick Redfern praise it highly, Mysterious Universe. We've had Rob and Trish McGregor write a good review of it. Brad Steger wrote a great review of it on Amazon. And then last year, Lauren Coleman put the book on his top 10 crypto books of 2013, which was a cool thing as well. So the book's been doing really good. It's been epic, actually.
Epic. Cool.
We actually started selling some songs, Jeffrey, our band.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm a zombie on the cover of one of his band's albums.
So if you were to characterize, what Bigfoot is, I mean, we're kind of wrapping up here, to make some kind of a conclusion of what you think, and I'll take both of you. Bigfoot is, Jeffrey, what would you say?
A one-ton interstellar Ewok. It's a Wookiee, like George Lucas. He got it. He was there. I think it has space alien origins. I think there's no one thing. There's a bunch of different things. I think there's possibly physical ones that live on the Earth who are tuned with nature and are really good at hiding. I think there's some that may be alien-like who can travel between realms. I think there's all kinds of different perspectives and types of scenarios. For instance, the Native Americans, there's stories of them being, we have Dr. Artie Six Killer Clark, Encounters with the Star People. There's all these stories of Native Americans having contact with the Star People. Well, if Native Americans are having contact with the Star People, then chances are Sasquatch is probably having contact with the Star People. And who's to say some of the Star People aren't Sasquatch? So I definitely think on some level there's some truth to the alien UFO connection, but I think also there's that trickster old scratch energy that can take forms of anything it wants and could be Sasquatch as well. So I don't really have one answer for that. And one other point I want to bring up about the book that's really cool is we have Dave Coleman, and he talks about Bigfoot in films and movies, and that's just really fascinating and fun. And then Thomas Finley, a painter who paints Bigfoot, we interviewed him. So a lot of Bigfoot culture in the book as well.
Cool. So what about you, Andy? What do you think?
Those are good points, Jeffrey, about the guys in the book. Well, I think Bigfoot is our archetypal wild man. That's our real basic definition. So he shows up in lots of different ways. He shows up in our media a lot today, and I think he plays a role. He plays a stand-in role for the Old West kind of pioneer American spirit. He's our wild man. He breaks the rules and wants to overcome all of the bureaucratic nonsense of modern life and get back to nature and all that. So it sort of represents that, and that's why
to the primitive.
That's why we try to put Bigfoot in most of our songs with Interdimensional Vortex League. We have many Bigfoot songs, and some of them are on SoundCloud. I wanted to get a plug-in for that. Go to SoundCloud and you can hear some for free, and we've also got them on iTunes, Amazon, and CD Baby.
Nice.
As well as the books on Amazon, primarily the Bigfoot book.
Okay. Well, our time is up here, guys. So, Jeffrey, when is your show?
My show is, it has a new time now, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And this Friday I'm interviewing Thomas Freese on Eerie Everyday Encounters, and the website's churchofmabusradio.com. That's Church of MABUS radio.com. And have some great interviews coming up in April. Peter Moon.
Cut. Gotta go.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on. That is Jeffery Pritchett and Andy Colvin. Their book is Praise for the Hairy Man, The Secret Life of Bigfoot. And next week, we're going to be speaking to Chris Hardy about the genetic engineering of the Anunnaki gods. One last announcement from me. On Monday, I will be hosting Epic Radio. I will be speaking with Scott Wolter. I will talk to you all then, and I will be back here, obviously, next Thursday. Till then, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio.